Reading, reading, reading. Why is it important? Why do we need to be able to read? What's the use of it? I can consume my content by watching videos. What do I need to read for? I believe reading has always been important and will forever be important. But of course, over time, it has changed. It has evolved. Now we can get it on a Kindle. We can get it through audio books. We can listen to it. We can consume the content in a different form today. But the foundation is still reading. And if it isn't evident how important reading is, look at slavery. They did not want slaves to read. It was like that was like a red flag. That's a no. That's a no. That's a no-go. You can't allow slaves to read. And I read Frederick Douglass's autobiography, and one of his slave masters, his wife, was teaching him how to read. And they had never really owned slaves, so she didn't really know that. But her husband caught her teaching Frederick how to read, and he was explaining her as to why you can't allow slaves to read. And I love this because it's written by Frederick. So there's no I don't know if that's true. There's nothing like that. This is factual. This is from his own life. This is from his mouth. So he was telling her that if you were to teach them how to read, then that could incite them to no longer want to be slaves. Because when you're an elevated thinker, when you're thinking on a higher level, it's hard to change somebody. It's hard to keep them oppressed. Now, if you have the slaves and you make them believe that they're supposed to be slaves, that they're supposed to do this, and their life is this way because this is how it's supposed to be, then you don't have to really worry about them trying to overcome oppression, trying to incite, riots and just a better life. So reading was very important, and it was a no-go to allow slaves to read. And they made that mistake a few times where Nat Turner, they allowed him to go from plantation to plantation preaching the word of Christ. And because Nat was able to read, he started using the word for the benefit of his people. It incited riots. He got them to galvanize, to come together and to try to overcome their current situation. So they went on a riot. They went on from plantation to plantation, freeing slaves, killing masters and all that type of stuff. So you get an understanding of why reading's important, at least from the context of slavery. But reading has always been the main source of knowledge and information. If you were to go back hundreds of years before the internet, that's how you got information. That's how you got knowledge. It was through reading, and passing that knowledge down to people, passing those books down to people. And I just know that my life totally changed when I started reading. I was able to break away from the matrix and how this world and government wants you to think. When you start reading books, you're now starting to think for yourself. Your mind is vibrating on a higher frequency. You're an elevated thinker now, and it's harder to control people when they have the capabilities of higher understanding. So when I started getting into reading, that changed me. That opened my eyes to how messed up the world is and how controlled we are, and how they want us to operate a specific way in this world. So I started learning outside of that, outside of the school system, which also teaches you to go to school, get good grades, become a worker, get in debt, and take most of the money you earn and try to get yourself out of that debt. So we're a debt-based system. So they make money off of putting us in debt. And if you don't know that type of information, then how do you break away from the matrix? How do you break away from it all if you don't understand that? So that's what reading did for me. And reading, it lays the foundation for wisdom. So you become wise the more you learn, the more you read, the more information that you collect, hold, and pass to people. It creates wisdom. I remember looking at this study that was done on millionaires. And out of this study, 88% of the millionaires said that they spend at least 30 minutes a day reading a book on self-improvement. Now, it doesn't mean specifically a book, but it could be a magazine. It could be anything, but they spend at least 30 minutes a day on reading. And it usually pertains to self-improvement. That says a lot. That says a lot. And I'm the type of person that's not going to try to fix something that's not broken. I'm going to try to take the recipe from all these different successful people that are in the position that I want to be in one day. And I'm going to look at how they did it. I'm going to study them. That's why I've read books on Elon Musk. I've read books on Bill Gates. I watched documentaries on Bill Gates. I've watched documentaries on Elon Musk, and not just them, plenty of other people. But most recently, I saw a documentary on Bill Gates, and he goes to a particular cabin, one of his cabins, and he doesn't leave until he reads a certain amount of books. If he's trying to invest his money into a new company that may be in a new industry, he'll read books on that entire industry before he makes that decision on investing his money in that company. So taking that recipe and applying it to myself, see, becoming successful in a monetary sense, a lot of people like to attribute it to luck. I don't. There's a science behind success in a monetary sense. There's a science behind it. There's a science to money, and they understand that code. They know how to earn money. They know how to make money. And I want to be able to replicate how they're doing it in order to reach that level of success for myself. So you don't have to do something different. It's you watching what they do and emulating what they do, because they're at where they're at for a specific reason. And it's mainly because of their habits and what they do. So if I want to become somebody similar to them, I need to copy their habits. And Elon said in his book that he learned how to build rockets off of reading. Abraham Lincoln, before he became the president, all he used to do was read. So it's copying these people that are successful and applying their habits to your life to try to replicate that same outcome. I mean, not only does reading help you in a successful monetary sense, but it also helps you from just health-wise, brain-wise. You know, it stimulates your brain, which produces creativity, which gets things going, gets ideas popping in your mind. You know, I can read a book and get lost, and something within that book maybe triggers an idea within me. So it's a way that I keep myself creative. I'll read to help stimulate my mind a little bit if I'm going through a drought, if I'm going through a situation where I can't really think of anything, I'm struggling creatively. How do I get my creative buzz back? There's a few things I'll do. I will go experience new places, go somewhere, try to maybe wilderness to allow my mind to open up. I'll go play basketball because it's my stress reliever. It's a hobby of mine, something that I love to do. It relaxes me. It also helps me rejuvenate creativity wise. And I'll read. Reading probably is the best for me. Reading and experiencing new places probably stimulate my mind the most, the best. So those are the first two that I'm going to jump to when I'm trying to stimulate creativity. Basketball is more stress related. If I'm stressing out, I'll relieve stress by go running, sweating it out, you know, having fun that way. But I would have to say is that reading brings that creativity out of me unlike most things do. But that requires you to be self-aware and to understand that about yourself, understanding what creates that, what stimulates your mind, what brings that creativity out of you. But I know for me, reading does that. And reading also slows down illnesses like Alzheimer's or dementia. It'll slow it down because you're stimulating your mind. It goes back to like that phrase, if you don't use it, you lose it. So you need to constantly be feeding your brain. You need to constantly be stimulating it in order to, keep yourself from obtaining illnesses later down the road, or having situations where you're having memory slippage, where you're forgetting things a lot. It improves your ability to remember things because you're stimulating it. You're putting it to work. You're putting it to use. So I would probably have to say that I love that the most about reading is because it's all brain related. It stimulates creativity. It creates more wisdom for you, and wisdom for your life. And, if you're trying to obtain some level of success in your life, that wisdom is going to come into value. And it also slows down cognitive disorders like Alzheimer's or something. It slows those type of illnesses down so that you're staying sharp. You're on your toes as you enter the latter half of your life. So, I just wanted to come and tell you guys the importance of reading. Maybe not so much of the Alzheimer's and the dementia. Maybe you don't care about that. But if you're caring about your life success wise, if you're caring about becoming wiser, if you're caring about learning more in a specific area, how to become better in a specific area, then you need to be reading. Now, like I said before, you don't have to actually be reading a book. You could be on an audio. You could be listening to an audiobook. It's made us a lot more diverse and flexible. Audiobooks have. Now I can sit in a car and digest a book. And, where before audiobooks, I would have to literally just read it. I had to be in a situation where I could read it. But now I can be on the go and still consume content and still be learning. So there's no excuse. I know some people don't like to read. I never like to read either. Some books I read, some books I listen to audiobooks on. So it's finding what fits your needs, what fits your characteristics, who you are, what do you like to do? How do you like to consume content? Do you like to read? Are you a visual learner? Are you an audio learner? So you understanding yourself, but it's no excuse because there's multiple ways to consume the content. I just think that we all need to spend time, at least 30 minutes out of the day, learning about something, reading about something, if we really want to have some level of success in our life. But I thank you guys for checking this video out, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. I'm out.